Matt Smith, you're back as Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, in the second season of The Crown. And after the success of the first season, what was it like coming back to shoot season 2?
Well, it was very exciting. Obviously, you know, we were very happy with how the first season went, and then we got back and we headed into the 60s. It was wonderful to see Claire again, wonderful to see Vanessa Kirby, and nice to be back in the saddle. I am actually going to close this window because it's there's a drill or something. Yeah, so sorry everyone at home there and on Google. I was just closing the window. Yeah, it's very nice to be back in the saddle, and yeah, we had a wonderful time making it.
Yeah, moving into a slightly different era of the series, moving a few years on. Was there any difference in terms of the styles or the production, or was there a different feel to it?
Well, I mean, we're in a different decade, so obviously that presents you with a sort of different set of costumes and politics and cultural ideals, I suppose. But no, not in the fundamental nature of making it. It's the same team involved in making the season, and a couple of the actors changed, I suppose. We lost John Lithgow as Winston Churchill, which was a shame because he's so brilliant and so lovely. But yes, ultimately it was sort of business as usual, really. But we did enter the kind of swinging 60s, and a lot changed for the royal family in that time.
Not to give away any specifics necessarily for anyone who hasn't seen the show yet, but the season opens with a pretty intense scene between you and Claire Foy as Queen Elizabeth, which sets up some major conflicts that arise. With the way the story is structured, was that the actually first scene you shot, or did that come later in the production?
No, that wasn't the first scene we shot by any stretch. We shot that quite late on, actually, because it actually comes in episode 3. But they were always going to use it as a flash forward. And then in episode 3, you see the same scene played again, but from a different set of angles and a different perspective, from Philip's perspective, really. So no, we shot that, sort of a couple of months in.
Yeah. And what was it like shooting that? I mean, you and Claire Foy have some intense scenes together because there was a lot of conflict a lot of times between Philip and Elizabeth. But that scene especially seemed like very much a reckoning between the two.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, kind of those scenes are often quite enjoyable to do, really. The ones that are quite difficult to watch can often be quite interesting to make on the day because creatively they're quite engaging and you're having to go to places that feel dramatic, I suppose. So, yeah, I mean, they're always quite, I suppose, intense, and there's an energy and with a scene like that, which you spend a whole day on, the risk is that it gets kind of stagnant, but the writing's so good that that's never really the case.
Now, in season 2, we also get to see Philip in a different context. He on a world tour away from Elizabeth, away from England. How much actual location shooting around the world did you do for that tour, or is it kind of the magic of production?
We went to South Africa. We went to Scotland. Lots of different places in South Africa, but that sort of doubled up as Papua New Guinea, as Australia, as Tonga, as many different places. We shot the Antarctic, but in Watford, in England. We shot a lot in Surrey, and then we sort of go around the country really in England and shoot at all the big beautiful houses and homes and drawing rooms and all that sort of stuff. Bath and Somerset. Yeah, it's quite a sprawling shoot, I suppose, and it's often on location as opposed to being in a studio. I mean, the bedrooms are in the studio, but that's kind of about it, really.
Now, going around the world to film, this world tour, is it more difficult, or is it kind of like an extended vacation, or is it logistically a lot more complicated?
No, it's not a vacation. It's work. You're there to work. I mean, it's nice to be in a different place, often, but yeah, no, it has all the complications of making any movie, really, and but it's certainly not a vacation.
Yeah. How did it compare in terms of the production? Was it a different experience trying to get into that mindset of where Philip is at the time?
Compared to what?
Compared to filming his usual scenes in England and the royal
Oh, you
family in
mean when he
London.
was on tour? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an actor, you sort of place yourself in the different situations as you see necessary. So, no, just because it's in a different country doesn't mean it's a particularly different mindset. I mean, I suppose his mindset is different because he's on an adventure. Really, if perhaps that's what you're alluding to, that there is a sort of sense of adventure and exploration, I suppose, in him, because he's he really literally is exploring far off places, and in doing so, that offers you a fresh perspective, I think, on your own life and your own position in the world.
Now, Philip and Elizabeth's relationship is such an important part of the show. During that period, did you miss having Claire Foy to act alongside?
Yeah, I did. I mean, Claire sort of came out for the last few days of that shoot. Really, she wasn't there for long at all, and yeah, I do miss Claire when she's not around on set. Actually, they're often my favourite scenes to shoot, are the ones with Claire.
And we also get to explore some of Philip's personal history, his family background, and a lot of his conflicted feelings about that. Did you feel like you developed a much deeper understanding of him playing him this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we learned so much more about Philip this year, about where he comes from and his history and his heritage and the things that made him tick, and also the tragedies that he went through as a young boy, which were vast, actually. And his mother was committed, his father sort of ran off, essentially. He was orphaned, and hopefully that gives us a fresh perspective to look at him nowadays and understand perhaps why he is the way he is.
And how much of this did you already know, even before the first season? This character is a historical figure, obviously, and still alive. Or did much of this come as news to you? A lot of this background.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the great virtues of The Crown. Really, is it sort of almost serves as a bit of a history lesson, really, on British culture and British politics in the British royal family. And I think, particularly with someone like Philip, he's a character that we think we know, that we don't really know. And even people in England who are very aware of the history and the intrinsic sort of workings of the royal family, I don't think a lot of them will have been aware of a lot of the events that have taken place in Philip's life. I mean, particularly people of my age, in his early life, because it's not that well documented, really. You sort of have to go and look for it and search it out. And it's a fascinating story, Philip's, from birth right to now. It really is. There's almost a TV show in that.
And goodness knows Peter Morgan, could certainly write another 5, 6, 7 seasons just on the Prince Philip story.
Well, yes, well, exactly. Yeah, there's so much material there, and it's all quite dramatic, really. So yeah, I'm sure he could. He's clever enough.
Well, he should definitely keep you in mind for that one. But a lot of. But a lot of Philip and Elizabeth's relationship that we see on the show is defined by the conflicts between them. Of course, there's also, we see a lot of the affection as well. And of course, they're still married to this day. As you've gotten to know them as characters playing, Philip on this show, do you feel their story is primarily one of love or maybe obligation?
Well, I think it's both, actually. I think whenever you marry into the royal family, it's both. It's both those things. You have a duty to the family and to the service that you are going to pay to them by marrying into them. But also, I think if you see any of the pictures of the 70th wedding anniversary that they've recently just kind of celebrated, you see there's still a great amount of affection between them. And I think importantly with Philip and Elizabeth, they've sort of continued to make each other laugh, which you can see, and I think that's kind of tantamount really to any relationship, isn't it? But yeah, there's a great deal of love, there's a great deal of affection, but you know, there is a great sense of duty for both of them, and that duty pulls them in slightly different directions. Like, he has a duty to himself as a man as well, which is, again, I think one of the interesting conflicts about Philip is he's torn all over the place, really. There's the duty to his wife, there's the duty to the person that he loves, there's the duty to himself, there's the duty to the royal family, there's the duty to his career, and all of these things make for a very complex and conflicted man.
Now, The Crown is unique in that it's going to track, these characters through decades and decades. And in season 3, Olivia Colman is actually taking over the role of Elizabeth. Do you have any inkling yet of who will play Philip going forward? I don't believe that's been announced yet.
Yeah, there's a couple of rumors flying around, but I can't tell you, obviously. But yeah, I do have an inkling.
Having invested in this role for 2 seasons, do you ever find yourself in your mind thinking, oh yeah, I think that would be a good later version of me, or oh, don't go for that person, or anything like that?
No, I'd never do that. I mean, look, I think whoever they get, I know will be a consummate and brilliant actor, and if I get the person that I think they're going to get, hopefully, then yeah, he's fabulous, and it's a very exciting time, and I will tune in like any other fan and watch it and see how they're all getting on.
Now, in a way, having another actor come in and assume this role that you've played is not unlike regenerating on Doctor Who. So you've had that experience before a little bit. In general, what is it like passing the baton to any other actor when it's a role that you've invested all this time and attention on?
Well, I don't know. I think it's I don't know any different really from doing something like Doctor Who. And if you play if you play Hamlet, or you play Macbeth, or you play Falstaff, or you play, I mean, there's I played Patrick Bateman, so was Christian Bale. I mean, no one owns anything, you know what I mean? So to me, all of these parts are open for other people to come and interpret and reinvent, and I think that's going to be one of the really interesting things for the show. And I don't think it's about me really. I think if the show can pull it off, and sort of 3 sets of actors can interpret this family that we understand over sort of, well, what will be 60-70 years, it will be completely unique. I'd love to see a younger version of Tony Soprano. I'd love that. That would really fascinate me. So yeah, I think it's really exciting, and it's a really interesting approach to modern drama, really.
What do you think you'll miss the most about playing Philip?
Claire. I'll miss Claire the most because she's hilarious, and I'll miss his black naval uniform. I like that, and I'll miss his wit and his he's the outsider, and there was something that's quite gratifying about playing the outsider that I like.
Now, season 2 is premiering not long after, in the current royal family, Prince Harry's engagement to American actress Meghan Markle, which in a way shows how far we've come since the Wallis Simpson controversy. Do you think that contextualizes the show in an interesting new way in terms of just illustrating the levels of societal change Queen Elizabeth and Philip just lived throughout their reign?
I mean, one has to remember that Philip technically was Greek, really. I mean, Greek and there was a lot of different blood in Philip. He was, to all intents and purposes, a foreigner as well. It wasn't. They were still marrying outside of the British kind of aristocracy then. But I think. I don't know, to me it shouldn't. I like now that it's not an issue, that there's no debate. I think for Philip it was quite difficult. I think for Meghan, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, for Wallis Simpson it was a slightly different thing. But, I think it doesn't matter. You can be hopefully in this day and age, you can come from anywhere and marry anyone. And that's how it should be, not just in the royal family, but that should be the rule everywhere. And I think it's, as long as they're in love and they're having a good time and they're having a laugh, which they seem to be, I wish them all the best. Good luck. Harry.
Now, now you're going, after Prince Philip, from one real life figure to another. You're going to be playing Robert Mapplethorpe in an upcoming
Yes.
film about his life. What interested you in telling that particular story?
Well, he's a fascinating character, and I think I was interested in his art. I was interested in his sort of spirit and his personality as an artist. He's got this sort of extraordinary sex life which informed his art. And I think also just, the 70s in New York were quite a draw to me, really. It was a sort of time when there was, you had like him, and you had kind of Basquiat around the corner, and Patti Smith and the Rolling Stones were coming into town. And, there was just, there was a field of ignition, I suppose, which felt, quite compelling. And as an actor, I think what's sort of exciting about being an actor is that you get to explore these little pockets of life. And in this instance, I was interested in that particular pocket of life.
Was it a different experience playing an American character like this? I'm not sure how many American characters you've played in your career before this.
I've played a few, yeah, because you're having to do an accent, and you're having to. I mean, it's a different world. But it's no different to, I don't know. It's one of the things of being an actor. You have to adapt to different people and different personalities and different cadences and accents and rhythms, and it was different for all those reasons, I suppose.
Well, I want to congratulate you on The Crown season 2.
Thank you, my
and on Mapplethorpe coming up, and any other future endeavors you have coming along. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Taking the time. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry it took us so long to get started.
Oh no, not at all.
Technology.
I'm thrilled. Yeah, I'm thrilled it finally worked out, and we got you on this lovely phone. All right, thank you very much.